Hello people, you are welcome to a new module, and in this module we will talk mainly about the work equipment hazards and control. This is module 9 of our HSE and or the occupational health and safety tutorials presented by me. So this module will mainly talk about the work equipment hazards and control. So the work equipment itself, we have several types of working tools. Here we need to mention the hand tools, the handheld power tools, also the machineries or the heavy machineries. When we select those types of tools to operate them in our work sites, we need to make sure that they are suitable for the task. So what do we mean by suitable for the task? Here we need to mention the integrity of this equipment for our tasks, and also the place of use for those equipments. And the place of use, here we need to mention the environment of use. Is it a wet environment or is it a dry environment? If there is any humidity, or that can result in a very high deterioration in those tools. And also the purpose of the use and the purpose of those equipments to be used in each tasks. We need also to consider those when we select our equipment for our workplace. In the ISO 12100, which is being issued 2010, they are clearly set the general principles for design and specifications for those equipments in terms of the safety of machinery. This ISO standard is for the safety of machinery, and for the safety of machinery there is a few basic terms and basic design specifications that we need to consider when we design any kind of those equipments. So to meet the general and the international safety of those equipments, we need to cover the basic terminology, the principles and methodology for achieving safety in design of those equipments, to make sure that later on they will be used in a very safe manner. Principles of risk assessments and risk reduction for dealing with those equipments. So those principles are based on knowledge and experience of the design, the use, and the incidents and accidents and risks associated to those equipments. Also on the general principles for design and the risk assessment technique, the risk reduction should be clearly covered while we design those machineries safely, by the identification of the hazards, the estimating of the risks, and elimination of those hazards from the machinery by a very good design stage. So this ISO standard is provide a guidance is given on those documentation and verification of the risk assessment and reduction process while we design those equipments for our customers or for the market in general. The work equipment hazard and control. Here we need to mention several things before we start talking about the hazards. The maintenance of those equipments should be properly maintained. Here we should have a written scheme of maintenance and of examination, WEC, for the purpose or for the pressure system, for the pressurized systems. Either they are pneumatic, which is used air as a source of energy, or hydraulic, which uses liquid as a source of the energy. Liquids like water or oil, of course. Methods of working of those work equipment also should be included in our examination scheme. What parts to include in this examination scheme, as well as the systems to be designed by the competent person. This system should be designed by a well-competent person, and previously we mentioned that competent person is the person who have the ability, knowledge, experience, and the training to conduct the tasks safely, and the system should be also examined by a competent person. Competent person, here we mention the company worker and the external worker. Competent person, he can be internally from the company or externally from outside our company. Operation and energy and emergency control, including the responsibility of the user and the company accountability. The users are ultimate responsible to maintain very good operation while using those machineries, and also the company is also accountable if there is any accidents happen in order to change those equipments and also to examine them properly and maintain them in a very proper way. The hand tools types and hand tools specifications. Hand tools types and specifications, I need to mention that they are simple and they are special purpose, simple in design and special in purpose of use, and also bespoke for task. Bespoke for task, that means it's being designed for a special character of tasks. For the safe use, we need to mention that we need to select the proper equipment for our task, as well as the proper use of those equipments on the work site. Inspection for those equipments should be conducted before each use, and the maintenance and training for our staff which uses those equipment on site. And company tools policy should be set as one of the administrative and administration control measures. The work equipment hazards and control also, it's including, as we mentioned, the portable power tools. Portable power tools hazards, including several kinds of hazards. They might be mechanical hazards or non-mechanical hazards. Mechanical hazards, here we need to mention the rotating equipments, for example. It's one of the mechanical hazards. And the electrical hazards, which is non-mechanical hazards. Pneumatic systems, by the ejection of those pressurized liquids or pressurized air. The uses of petrol, which is highly flammable and can cause fire and explosions while we use those portable power tools. Hydraulic system, which uses the compressed liquids, either oil or water, on those portable power tools. All of those, or all of which, are kinds of hazards related to those portable power tools. The mechanical hazards, including 9 types of hazards, and those are including the impact, high pressure ejection for those liquids, and the entanglement of your parts of the body into that equipment, crushing between parts of the equipment, friction of the parts that flying over those equipments, shearing, which is being causing a damage to your skin or to your bones, drowning in, and cutting, and also stabbing by the needles. And if, as you can see on this picture, there is several kinds of mechanical hazards with their pictures. On the non-mechanical hazards, we can include the rest of the hazards related to those portable power tools, including the electrical hazards that can cause electrical shock to the user or any trespassers, the thermal effects, including operating environment, thermal effects from overheating of those equipments, the fire and explosion hazards from the fuels being used on those equipments, noise and vibration of those equipments. They might be very noisy, that can causing a hearing loss or a damage to your hearing sense, and also vibration, which can cause white fingers to those users if they are being exposed to a greater amount of vibration for long durations. Pressure and vacuum of those equipments and the liquids being used on those equipments. Hazardous materials and substances, if we use any kind of chemicals or if we use any kind of substances that might be very harmful to the users. And hazardous or radiation effects, some kinds of those equipments, they are using radioactive sources. It's also one of the non-mechanical hazards. Neglect of ergonomic principles. The neglect of ergonomic principles here, we need to mention the way of seating while using those equipments, the way of handling those equipments. It's also can cause an ergonomics effects to the users, as well as the human error. Human error, it's also one of the non-mechanical hazards that can cause a severe consequences either to the user or any nearby persons to the working area. The handheld power tools control measures, including the working environment. We have to give a very careful consideration to the working environment of those equipments, and do not expose those electrical tools to rain and water, as well as do not use them in a flammable atmosphere, especially for those equipments who are emitting a kind of parts or any kind of flammables flying over from those equipments. Protect against electrical shock. We also have to protect them properly against an electrical shock. All of the wires should not be, or users should not be exposed to those internal wires. They have to be fully covered. The competent users, we have to make sure that the user of those equipments is fully trained, have enough experience, and also they have a knowledge regarding the hazards related to those equipment. The correct tool and accessories selection. When we select those tools, we have to make sure that they are being selected in a very proper way to maintain integrity and safety, and the accessories being used as a support for those equipments. The suitable clothing for the users, especially for welders, for example, they have to wear the leather covering, not the normal coverall, just to make sure that they are being protected against the flammable ashes or any flammable substances. The PPEs like glasses, goggles, masks, dust masks, gloves, face shields, all of which they have to be used. Regular maintenance as one of the most important control measures for those handheld power tools. They secure the workpiece when not in use. We have to make sure that it's properly secured to avoid the unauthorized use of those equipments, and also the posture, avoid overreaching. We should avoid overreaching of people while using those equipments. Here we have a general hierarchy of the measures when we use those safety devices to protect people from being exposed to the dangerous part of machineries by using, for example, guards. The first of all, we have, or the first point here, we have the fixed guards. Fixed guards, those are the guards that are erected and being fixed into the equipments to protect people from being exposed to the dangerous moving parts. Also, there is other guards and protective devices. We will discuss this in the next slide. Judges and holders and the push sticks to make sure that people are away from dealing with the hazardous parts of the machinery. as well as the information, instruction, training, and supervision for the users, as well as for the visitors. In case of we are working in a general workshop, we also should provide them with a special instructions as to being protected from those hazards, as well as supervision should be also maintained for the users, and also for the visitors or for any passers nearby those equipments. The guards and safety devices, as you can see here on the list, we have the fixed guards, and also there is other guards including the movable guards or the interlock guards. The overrun devices, those are time delay devices. Those they will stop the machine after a while from the working. And the automatic guards, those guards are being automatically closed or closing the dangerous parts of the equipment while we start running those equipments. Whenever we open those guards, immediately it will shut down or it will stop the machinery immediately. There is also protective devices including the trip devices and two-handed control devices. So for any users, they have to push two buttons in order to operate the machinery. Trip devices, here we mean, for example, the pressurized or the mat on the floor. Whenever there is any persons step on that mat, immediately it will shut down and cut off the machinery. The part of the protection appliances like the push sticks, which is being used to avoid the being close into the moving parts, like for example the rotating parts, like the conveyors on the machineries. Push sticks can be used there as a protection appliances. Also, we have other safety controls that can be used, like the stop control, easy reach, the emergency stop button, which is the red mushroom. These very useful safety control devices to be used on those machineries, and also it should be placed in a very safe area, which is everyone can see that emergency stop whenever it's being needed to use. The isolation from energy sources, we have also to isolate this equipments whenever we have an accident or when not in use. We have to isolate it totally from the electrical circle. The suitability of the machinery or of the machine, we have to make sure that this machine is suitable for the environment that we use. In case of we have any humid environment, it should be well coated and anti-corrosion equipment. Lighting should be maintained for the users whenever they are using this equipment, in order to make sure that they have a sufficient and enough lighting level when working nearby those equipments. The protection against ejection of work pieces. Those are the pieces that come out of the machinery while it's running, so there should be guards to protect users from those ejection of work pieces. The liquids like coolants, also we have to reduce the chips and swath, noise and dusts to protect the users from any kind of liquids that's being used on those machineries. And also if there is any kind of noise, any kind of dusts that being emitted from those machineries, users should be protected properly. And here we have finished our session, Module 9. See you on the next session.